You ready to get your horror month on, Vince?
I'm ready to get some horror month done.
It is 2017. It's horror month. It's October. And here we go.
Horror month is finally here. This is our favorite month. And we are starting with a brand new franchise, people.
It's not really brand new, Vince. It's been around for a while.
It's a brand new franchise for us. We did Halloween. We did Saw. We did Friday the 13th way back when.
And Scream. Don't forget about Scream.
Oh yeah, we did Scream. We did Scream, and what else do we end up with?
Child's Play.
Exactly. A doll.
Well, we decided to do Child's Play this year because it seems like there's a lot of creepy puppet movies coming out. Annabelle, and now a new Child's Play is actually being released this month, which I'm really looking forward to.
Ollie Ollie oxen free.
Which is going to be at the end of our franchise reviews, obviously. And haven't seen it yet, so I'm really looking forward to it. But right now, we are going to be reviewing the first movie.
It's the Scream Factory Collector's Edition of Child's Play.
Oh, for God's sake.
But however, we also have the box set of Child's Play, which comes with Child's Play.
How did that happen?
So we're going to sort of review this twice, I guess.
He's something, isn't he?
Oh, for God's sake.
And they're kind of, well, not that much different, but there's stuff on here that's not on there. So we're going to review this and then review that.
Most accidents happen at home. This is no accident.
So, one thing right off I can say is that... So one thing, first of all, bleh. I can't say it.
You can do it, Vince. I believe in you. It's horror month.
That's how excited I am. I can't even talk anymore.
You can't form words. Maybe he's being possessed by a doll, like a voodoo. Maybe voodoo's coming out of the air and possessing Vince's brain right now.
Ole Dumbula. Oh.
Give me the power, I beg of you.
I knew it. I knew that's what's happening.
Of course, they did new artwork for this.
Yeah, I love the cover for this. But the one thing about this, and they even talk about it in the extras, is the original cover, which is also on here. You want to show that?
Here's the original. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me get a good picture of it because
it's a picture of an eyeball and a person coming out of a window. I mean, that's probably the worst poster for a movie about a killer doll ever.
That eyeball up there is supposed to be Chucky.
Oh, well, I would never known that. And if somebody, being that this is the first movie in this franchise, knows nothing about this or knows anything about it being about a killer doll, they look at this poster and like, this is a movie about people falling out of windows?
Actually, it was kind of reminiscent to me of Poltergeist 3, where she's looking up at the skyscraper and there's lightning coming down because there's lightning hitting the building here.
It's just a terrible poster, and they mention it in the extras, and I'll talk about it when we get to those. But yeah, it's horrible. And you know, if they had actually came out with this amazing cover, people would have saw that and they would have freaked. They're like, "Oh my God, it's a movie about a killer doll." But back when this came out, which was I guess the 80s.
What was it, 1988?
Back then, I mean, who ruled? I mean, Freddy ruled, Jason ruled, and those two were the juggernauts, Michael Myers. And at the time this came out, I knew exactly what it was, and I knew exactly what Chucky was and what Chucky was going to be before I even went to go see this movie. It's one of those, you know, this is a classic. This is a classic before going to see it. I knew what it was.
Well, you could kind of tell it from the trailer. They kind of actually gave it away in the trailer that it's going to be a killer doll.
And I know a lot of people tried to get on the success bagging. They're
the baggage?
I'm not even going to go there. They're bagging up. They're bagging up the bodies.
There's baggage.
The bodies are rolling out right now. They're bagging everything. I have no idea what I'm talking about. It's horror month.
It's horror month, and you got a lot of baggage.
Well, that's true. So, what was I talking about?
I don't know. You were going to bag Chucky up.
So, yeah, these people were trying to, you know, get in on the whole bandwagon, is what I'm trying to say, with Freddy and Jason and start a whole new horror franchise But Chucky, I mean, that was it couldn't fail. I mean, but yeah, it's been done. It's not like an original concept, but it hadn't been done for a long time, is what I'm saying. And to bring this character to life, and it was amazing.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, because the other thing about the whole killer doll thing, killer dollar, it made killer dollars, that's for sure.
I got the baggage, you got the dollar bills, Vince.
Oh, jeez.
And you got the dollar bill, I got all the baggage. Talk to us about the dollar, Vince.
It was actually breathing fresh life into the whole idea of a killer doll and coming to life and going around, going after people.
And they gave it the attitude, sort of like what Freddy has. I'm going to cuss at you attitude, and he kind of he was a little jokey, not too jokey, but he was a little jokey in the movie.
A personality.
My mom is afraid to death of killer dolls. And this movie came out, and I was like, well, I got to take her to go see it.
Well, of course, that scared your mom to death with it.
I did. It was pouring down raining, and we went to the show in Arnold, the Arnold 12 Cinema, whatever it was. And we were racing to get there because we were almost late. I was doing like 85 miles an hour in the rain to get there. And got there. The place was packed. And we finally got to sit down to watch it. And again, it was just one of those memories of going to see it with my mom at the show.
And I didn't get to see it at the theaters. I couldn't talk my mom into taking me, or let's go see Child's Play. No, she wouldn't go. And I couldn't get anybody else that was interested in going either. There was a lot of people too that also said, "Well, it's a doll. Why would I want to go see a movie about a killer doll?"
And this is actually directed by Tom Holland, and he did Fright Night as well. Also one of my favorite horror films, and I'm saying that the guy that was in Fright Night is also in this.
Chris Sarandon.
And he did a pretty good job. I mean, as good job as you could, but you could tell the actors were cold in the movie. Now they would just CG the whole thing. But back then, they're like, oh, it's 10 below zero. Why don't you just go outside and film? And I love that. I love that about these old movies where it's cold and you can see the breath and it's real. It's not CG.
Everything in this movie has a practicality to it.
I guess there was some CG out there, but he was a practical effect. He was a doll. They actually physically created him.
But at least through the first 5 films, I believe, or at least the first 4, they kept Chucky practical.
And I think that's really impressive. And the story here was great. And like Vince said, I really loved the story. And Chucky was a pretty frightening character in this film, especially towards the end of the movie. And I don't want to give away, any spoilers, because there could be people out there who has never seen Child's Play, Vince.
Like I said, there's a lot of people that they were like, it's a doll. How frightening could it be? It's actually pretty frightening.
Well, at least the first movie here was. And, everybody knows Chucky. You say Chucky, they know exactly like Freddy. You know who Freddy is? Freddy's the guy in the white mask who goes and kills teenagers. I mean, that's what usually they say, but, they're close.
Yeah, exactly. The one that wears skin on his face and carries a chainsaw.
They get all the other ones mixed up. They don't really get Chucky mixed up. They know he's a doll because it's Chucky.
Don't fuck with the Chuck.
But overall, I thought the clarity of the film was really good. There was a lot of grain in it. It wasn't, I don't think, crystal clear. But that's fine because, I guess they got it as clear as they possibly could from whatever film stock they used back then. And I enjoy seeing grain in a movie once in a while, and because that's the way it was when they made it.
Well, this is a new 2K scan of the inner positive, by the way. And actually, to me, this is the best Child's Play has ever looked. As I've said this many times before, watching this, I've usually seen it on television, or I saw the VHS of it, or the DVD of it, or whatever. And I've never actually owned any of those, but I've rented them and they were just, it usually was dark. Usually everything's dark in it, and you can't really see it. It's not very clear. It's grainy. It's blurry. So watching it like this was amazing to me.
So let's jump into the extras finally here, Vince. Why don't you start with them?
Okay, the first commentary on Child's Play is by the director, Tom Holland. Now, I have to say, I wasn't really looking forward to this commentary because the last time David and I did a review with Tom Holland doing a commentary, it was Psycho 3, I believe, and it was not that good. The whole time he talked about Fright Night, that entire commentary. He didn't really talk about Psycho 3. There was a guy that was doing the questioning on that, and just like there is here, but that guy had to drag things out of him and, basically remind him that, hey, we're watching Psycho 3. And actually, I was completely wrong about it because this one, he actually stayed on point with this the whole time. I mean, he talked about Child's Play, and he talked about the cast and the crew and and the special effects. And the only thing I would say about this one, though, is it's definitely you listening to a director, which is great if you're like a film school student. This is one of those that a film school student really should listen to, because you would learn a lot from him. And that's the way actually a commentary should be, is that not only should it be entertaining, but you should be able to learn from it. He actually did a good job on this one. It wasn't a total waste like Psycho 3 was. And maybe it just was that he wasn't into Psycho 3, I don't know. Maybe it was because he had issues with Anthony Perkins on that one. But this one was just so much better. And again, we have a guy that's doing all the questioning and everything and kind of talking with him, so maybe it just kind of helped him along. Maybe this guy actually did ask the right questions, so that Tom Holland kept talking on it, and it was a great commentary for what it is. I mean, it was much better than he did in the past.
Okay, so the next commentary is by Alex Vincent, who played the kid in the movie, and by Catherine Hicks and Chucky designer Kevin Yeager. Now, this is actually a pretty good commentary. I was entertained through the whole thing. Everything they said on here was new to me because I hadn't watched any of the extras yet. And even after watching the extras, most of the stuff was still pretty new. They didn't really repeat themselves that much. A couple cool things that they pointed out, or Kevin Yeager did, was in the very beginning of the movie where they go into the toy store and there's all these Chucky dolls all over the place. And every time I watch that, I'm like, wow, they made so many Chucky dolls for this movie. But actually what those were vacuum-formed Chucky dolls, which means it was just a plastic front and there was no back to it, and they're just painted plastic shells, basically. And on one of the extras where the guy who actually plays Chucky has one of those sitting in the background. So if you're wondering what they actually look like, he has one. They gave one to him when the movie was over. And the other weird thing about this commentary is that the kid is in it, but he's sort of on his own. He's talking on his own, and he is barely in it. He's probably only in it for through the whole movie, probably a good 20 minutes at the most, the stuff that he actually says, compared to Kevin Yeager and the actress who actually he married while he was filming the movie. He met her and married her, so they're man and wife, which again I didn't know, so that was kind of interesting. And this is something that we just talked about in the review, but he kept talking about how cold it was in Chicago, how it was one of the coldest winters ever that they were there, and it was like below zero, and everybody was freezing. And again, you could see that in the movie. You could see how cold they were. And he also talked about, how many people it took to create Chucky and how many people it took to control him. And basically, stuff like that was really interesting, actually, because you're watching that and you don't realize there's probably 11, 12 people off camera with all these cables and wires and controlling the doll on the screen. And pretty much any time Chucky's on the screen, he did talk about it. He talked about how hard it was to move him around, and all that was super interesting.
So the next commentary on here is by the producer David Kirchner and the screenwriter Don Mancini. And this one is actually pretty good. I liked it. It was enjoyable. I wouldn't say it was anything spectacular. It didn't necessarily blow me away, but it was very informative, and they talked a lot about Child's Play and about the crew and the cast, and they give you a lot of insight on what was supposed to happen and what made it to the film and what they had originally wrote and what they didn't use, and a lot of that was in this commentary. And it wasn't a bad commentary. It was pretty good overall.
If you hear a hammering in the background, my neighbors are building a shed out back. So that's what that pounding's coming from. It's not Chucky with his hammer, hammering somebody in the head, which, it's not a bad idea. But yeah, that's what that hammering is coming from right now.
Next up, we have Chucky's commentary on Child's Play. Now, this was something that when I read this on the Blu-ray, I was like, man, I can't wait to hear this. This is going to be great. You're going to have Chucky actually do a commentary on one of his films. Sounds awesome. Well, not so much. Well, actually, it was extremely disappointing. Because Chucky does do a commentary on here, and when he does do the commentary on here, it's fantastic. It sounds awesome. It sounds great. But the problem is, he only does it at certain parts of the film. And those parts of the film are when he's actually murdering somebody. So, Chucky doesn't murder a whole lot of people in this movie, believe it or not. And maybe 3 at most. I don't know, maybe 20, 25 minutes goes by before he actually murders the first person. So you're sitting there forever just waiting for it to happen. I'm like, okay, is he going to talk or not? And so, like I said, until he kills that first person, you don't hear him. And then it's another good 10 minutes before you hear him again. And then it's another good 20 minutes before you hear him. And it's like that, because he's only talking when he's killing someone. So it was a big disappointment, a really big disappointment. It would have been much better if they had either Chucky, of course, talking all the way through it, or if they at least got the actor Brad Dourif, who plays Chucky, talk like on the parts where Chucky wasn't there. To maybe give commentary on everything else. Until that part where Chucky kills somebody. They could have done that, and it would have been much, much better. Much better. And I don't know why Scream Factory even bothered with it. I mean, I think it was an interesting idea. I think you guys probably even thought it was an interesting idea, but if that was all it was, I think you guys could have left this off of here, and it really wouldn't have mattered. Okay, so the first extra on this second disc is really, really cool. I loved this extra. I love when they actually put footage like this on a featurette, and I love this. I've seen it on other Blu-rays as well, where they take footage from an actual person that was there videotaping at the time that they were making the movie, and this guy actually started recording from day one to the very last moment, and he filmed all kinds of special effects stuff, and it's mostly the special effects. It's one of Kevin Yeager's crew, and he was videotaping this whole time, so you get to see all these guys that worked on Child's Play and did Chucky and created Chucky as they were creating him, as they were building him, as they were putting him together. You get to see it from the very beginning, and you see all these guys are so young. You see Kevin Yeager, of course, is in it, but then you also get to see John Carl Buechler, who was really young, who eventually went on to film and direct Friday the 13th Part 7. But then you also get to see Steve Johnson, who did the special effects for Nightmare on Elm Street 4. And this is just an absolute super cool behind the scenes footage making of. I just loved it. I loved every moment of it. I thought it was fantastic. And there's no narrator. You don't hear anyone talking over it. It's just the special effects guys. You get to see Ed Gale before he put on the Chucky suit, and as they did their sort of screen test for him and him running and everything. It was really cool. It was really awesome. I think it's about an hour long. I know it was a long, some long footage, and believe it or not, I think there was a lot of it cut out that we didn't see. It really gives you a whole lot of insight on how they made this film. And actually, once you see it, you sit there and go, wow, it took a lot to do this. And there's a lot of work that went into it, a lot more than you would think. And when you see it on screen, you think, well, yeah, you can tell it's this guy in a costume, or you can tell it's this, or you can tell it's that. No, you can't. Trust me. When you see this footage, the things you thought you saw aren't the things you thought you saw. And here it actually shows how they put all that together. So it's really cool, and it's probably the best extra on this entire disc. I absolutely loved it.
All right, so the next extra is called Howard Berger, and it's called Your Special Effects Friend Till the End. And this is just an interview with, I'll just call him Howard. This is just an interview with Howard, remembering back on Child's Play, and he basically talks about how he and a bunch of other people created Chucky, which is in the first extra. Basically, you get to see the whole thing, but now he's sort of like remembering back on that whole time in his life. And because of that, they show a lot of the footage that was on the extra before this, all the footage of them creating Chucky. And he talks about how he got hired for the job. And this is something, again, we brought up during the review. He never like the poster of the movie. He said he didn't understand why they went with that poster. It had nothing really to do with a killer doll. It was just a poster of a woman getting thrown out the window. So he never really understood that poster. And overall, it's an alright interview with this guy. He kind of goes back and talks about stuff that you already know if you've already listened to the commentary. Because I listened to that first, like I said. And so all this stuff is a little rehash of that stuff. But yeah, it was an okay extra. Nothing too spectacular, but it was entertaining.
So the next extra is called Behind the Mask, Being Chucky with Ed Gale. Some of the scenes where Chucky really looks alive and walking upstairs or crawling onto furniture or whatever, they used a real guy to do that, and this is the guy, Ed Gale. And it was really cool to see him because I didn't actually put it together at first that he was the same guy that played Howard the Duck. But of course I've seen him in Howard the Duck, and now that I've seen him in this as Chucky, I can kind of say, okay, yeah, I recognize it now. I recognize him when he's running. Believe it or not, I can tell when it's Ed Gale. This was really cool though. It's an interview with him, and he talks about being on the set and how he liked working on the set with everyone, and pretty much said that if he had a chance to just exclusively work with Tom Holland, he would do it. He seems like a really cool guy, really down-to-earth kind of person, and I really liked this interview. It was really interesting, and he talks about a lot of interesting things that happened on there, but he's also one of the ones that said it was so cold in Chicago, because it was the coldest year, I guess, in Chicago, or that it had been in 10 years or something like that, and Ed Gale talks about it too.
Okay, so this next extra is called Evil Comes in Small Packages. So it has interviews with the producers, the main actors, the guy who actually plays Chucky, the writers, the kids, the main actresses, and Kevin Yeager. There's a lot of interviews on here, and the writer of Child's Play as well. Now this was actually a really good extra. I learned a lot of stuff on here that I never knew about Child's Play. And they go back into the beginning on when the guy who wrote the original one, how he came up with the idea and what his original idea was. Now, I don't really want to spoil it, because if you want to go back and watch these extras, it's a fascinating story because it was nothing like this story. It did not end up anything like what you see now. If he did his original story, it would have been a totally different movie. And I believe Tom Holland or somebody went back and rewrote the script and made it what it is now and put the voodoo aspect in it, because none of that was in the original film. And he talks about how his movie started, and they were in a toy factory, and they were creating all these Chuckies. These Chuckies were going down the line, and they were automated, and they were creating the Chucky dolls. And that's actually in the beginning of the second film. So I find that interesting that he took that idea, pulled it out of here, which didn't exist, and stuck it as the beginning of the second film. And the original title for this film was Batteries Not Included. But when he pitched the script, he realized Spielberg had come out with a movie that year called Batteries Not Included, so then he had to change it, and then he called it Blood Brothers. Then they didn't like that title, so then it ended up with Child's Play. But now, you know, if you say Child's Play, like they were saying in this interview, that nobody really even knows what Child's Play is. If you say Chucky, oh, I know what the Chucky movies are. I was like, okay, well, they came from the movie Child's Play. Because I think after Child's Play, it's pretty much all Chucky. Everything in the title is Bride of Chucky, Chucky this, Chucky that. It's all Chucky. So I think the only time to use Child's Play was in the first and second one, and maybe the third one. I don't know if they used the word Child's Play, but these are pretty much known as Chucky movies now, not Child's Play.
Okay, the next extra is called Chucky, Building a Nightmare. And this is basically some of the footage that you saw from that original featurette where it was just behind the scenes. It's some of that, but it's also brand new interviews with the cast and crew, mostly the crew. And you get to see Steve Johnson and Howard Berger and Kevin Yeager and talking about how they actually built Chucky, from the concept and from the design, from the script, everything, from that first page of where Chucky's described to the very end where they actually built him and how they worked him and everything. It's a little more insight and actually them talking, whereas, like I said, on that first featurette, there was no narrator for that. This one would actually be kind of the narrator, but you're getting it from all these different perspectives, and mostly Kevin Yeager's, but Steve Johnson and Howard Berger and all these other guys jump in, and they give, and Don Mancini as well. They all talk about the whole idea of building Chucky, as well as Tom Savini, who was the master of special effects in the 80s. I mean, he was the horror special effects guy. He's the guy that created things for Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Friday the 13th, you name it, Creepshow. He did all that. So it was really cool to hear Tom Savini also talk about Child's Play.
So the next extra here is called A Monster Convention, and it's from a 2007 basically convention. It was a horror convention, and they got all the people together that were in the Chucky films and sat them in a table, and like you do at conventions, and the audience got to ask them questions, and they answered the questions and stuff. And this was really pretty short. It wasn't even probably less than 5-10 minutes. But it was interesting. I mean, it was entertaining. The kid, the guy that plays the kid, basically says the same stuff. Even in the commentary, to the interviews, to this, he always says the same things. So he's kind of like the one-trick pony where he's like, this is all I know. This is all I can say about this movie. I can't say nothing else because this is all I know. And other than that, though, it was a pretty good extra.
Next up, we have Introducing Chucky. This is the making of Child's Play. And it's an old vintage footage. It's old 80s footage that they filmed during that time. It's behind the scenes, but it also is kind of a great big super long trailer for the film. This is more of an actual press release where they're filming on location and on the set and they have interviews with Tom Holland, they have interviews with Kevin Yeager and all these other different people, Catherine Hicks, Alex Vincent, all of them, but in the 80s at the time that they were filming it. And it's really cool. It's a cool vintage making of, and it's cool to see. It wasn't bad. Some of it was kind of funny to listen to this narrator on there doing the voiceover, because he would say things like, "But we all know that won't stop Chucky," and things like that.
Scary because this doll is the state of the art, the brainchild of wunderkind creature maker Kevin Yeager.
And he would literally talk like that, and it was kind of funny to hear him do this really cheesy voiceover.
And now we got a vintage featurette, which is basically looked like something was filmed when they made this movie back in the 80s. And it kind of looks like that. It's kind of really old. It's very dated. They show a lot of the footage that they kind of showed in some of the other things. It's pretty bad quality. This is probably the weakest, I guess, extra on here. And it's not that great, but, you know, again, it's cool that they included it. So I thought Scream Factory did a great job with the extras here. They just did another fantastic job.
I absolutely love the extras on this. I think they did a fantastic job. Once again, Scream Factory, phenomenal job.
Going into this, I have never seen any extras on Child's Play. I never saw the making of it. I knew nothing. I knew about the movie. And again, it's so fun to go back and revisit all this stuff and learn how they did this. And that first extra that you reviewed with the hour of them just in the warehouse, my God, that was so amazing to watch that. And it was just like a garage. That's all it was just a garage with a couple people. And that's what created him. And I just thought that was so cool.
I just love the fact that everything in here was a practical effect. Everything that they did, they actually made. And on top of it, you got the guy that played Howard the Duck playing Chucky.
Yeah, and again, that was probably my favorite extra. Out of all the extras on here, that one where they interviewed him, I loved it. It was so fascinating to listen to him talk, and oh man, that was probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So there you go. This is the beginning of Horror Month. And, I think my voice changes when I say Horror Month. It's just kind of automatic.
I thought it was because you're too old for this shit.
No, it's just automatic. And plus I've been talking for like the last 4 hours doing reviews on here. But this is it. This is the beginning of Horror Month. And I could not be more excited. Last year, do you know how many videos we did for October, Vince?
A lot.
We did 30 videos. And we missed it by one. I don't know how we ended up missing it by one, but we did a video per day, basically, for the entire month last year. And this year, I'm going to try to top that if it's possible.
Or at least come damn close.
And we got so much stuff for you this month. It's just, we got piles of horror movies. And hopefully it's not going to be horrible.
Hopefully it's not going to be horrible?
Yeah, that's what I said.
I thought you said hopefully it's not going to be horror-filled.
Horror-filled. No, it's going to be horror-filled, all right. Hopefully it's just not going to be horrible. They're going to probably get tired of us.
Well, here they are again. They're back.
So hopefully you will stick around because we have, like I said, so much stuff for you. I'm hoping tonight we are going to be streaming a live video game like we did last year. We did Until Dawn last year, and we have... Actually, we're going to be doing two video games this month, if I can get them all in there. We live stream it, and you can jump in there and comment. Watch it with us while we're playing. It's supposed to be scary.
But to do that, you have to subscribe. So hit the subscribe button down there, and hit the little bell up top, and that way you'll get notices all frickin' month when we post our horror films.
So stay tuned. We will be back.